imagine your business partner decides to leave the business. You know they've got a lot of customer contact information, and they also had some really good relationships with some of your employees. Obviously, you don't want them to take those with them and immediately set up in competition with you. So in shareholders agreements, shareholders often agree clauses known as non-compete and non-solicitation clauses. And the difference between these is that a non-compete clause stops someone competing with the business. And this can apply while they're a shareholder and also after they leave the business. A non-solicitation clause, on the other hand, stops somebody poaching employees and customers of the business when they leave. But what you need to think about are sort of the parameters of this restriction. And they have to be reasonable to protect the business. So, for example, if your business only sells products in Auckland, it's not reasonable to have a non-compete that restricts a shareholder from working for a business anywhere in New Zealand. So what is a reasonable period for a non-solicitation clause? They're typically between 6 and 24 months, could be up to 36 months, just depending on the circumstances. Just remember, the longer the period, the more likely it will be to be held unenforceable. So if any of the shareholders are companies rather than individuals, you also need to consider whether any of the key people associated with those businesses should also be restricted by the non-compete or non-solicitation. Sometimes you do also need to consider whether there should be any exclusions to the non-compete. So for example, if a shareholder already has an existing shareholding in another business or already works in another business, you need to carve those out at the beginning. Now, the On Your Terms Shareholders Agreement is really designed for a small to medium-sized Kiwi business where the shareholders are generally involved in the business. Now, if you have shareholders who are investors in the business but not really involved in the business, it's likely that they won't want to agree to a non-compete. So you could have this as one of the exclusions. However, the On Your Terms Shareholders Agreement isn't really designed for the situation in which you have just investor shareholders. So it's probably a good idea in that situation to get some further customizations done to your shareholders agreement.